you've given us a really key document here, this lead-based paint disclosure form, and also this big guide, Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home.
Yeah.
So for this deep dive, what we really want to do is pull out the essential stuff you need to know from these, especially, if you're in a home built before 78 or maybe thinking about buying or renting one.
Exactly. And it's interesting how they work together, right? The form is that specific legal thing you see in a sale or lease.
Right. The transaction piece.
Yeah. And the pamphlet is more like the owner's manual, the broader safety guide for living in potentially older places. Looking at both gives a much clearer picture.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Why is lead-based paint, why is it still such a big deal?
Well, the absolute core issue is the health damage. It's serious, and it can be permanent, particularly for young kids like under age 6.
Under 6, okay.
Yeah, their bodies actually absorb lead more readily, and their nervous systems are still developing, making them incredibly vulnerable.
So even small amounts are bad.
Oh, absolutely. Even what seems like low-level exposure in young children can cause, irreversible problems, learning disabilities, lower IQ, behavior issues, memory trouble. It's why prevention is just so critical.
That's really sobering. And it's not just young children, is it?
No, definitely not. It's also a significant risk for pregnant women, impacting the developing fetus. And for adults generally, longer-term exposure can lead to a whole range of issues.
Like what kind of things?
Things like high blood pressure, fertility problems, digestive issues, nerve disorders, problems with memory, concentration, even muscle and joint pain or hearing loss. It really affects the whole body.
Wow. Okay, so how does this stuff actually get into our bodies? I mean, people aren't eating paint chips on purpose, right?
Right, not usually. The main ways are breathing in lead dust, swallowing that dust. Maybe it's on hands, toys, food, or sometimes, yes, actually eating paint chips or contaminated soil.
Dust seems like the big one then.
It is a major pathway.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how easily it's created. Renovations, obviously, scraping, sanding, but even just normal wear and tear. Think about painted windows sliding up and down or doors opening and closing in their frames. That friction creates dust over time.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. So if you're in an older home, where are you most likely to find this paint?
The key thing, really, is that date, 1978. Homes and even childcare places built before then are the ones to watch. That's when the federal ban happened.
Okay.
And you can find it inside and outside. Walls, ceilings, sure, but pay special attention to those friction points we mentioned. Windows, windowsills, doors, door frames, stairs, railings.
Right.
And don't forget the soil around the house. Old exterior paint flaking off for years, or even residue from leaded gasoline back in the day, can contaminate the soil.
Is there like a technical definition for lead-based paint?
Yes, there is. The government defines it as paint with lead at or above 1.0 milligram per square centimeter or over 0.5% lead by weight.
Okay.
There's also something called lead-containing paint, which for a new paint, it can't have more than 90 parts per million lead.
Got it. So if you're looking at a pre-1978 place, what are the sort of visual warning signs?
Well, the most obvious thing is paint that's clearly failing.
Yeah.
Peeling, chipping, chalking, cracking. That's an immediate hazard.
Or if it's falling apart.
Exactly. But, and this is important, even paint that looks okay can be a risk, especially if it's on a surface a kid might chew on or, again, those high wear areas.
Okay.
And remember, it's both the visible chips and the invisible dust. Both are hazards. The EPA actually has set specific hazard levels for lead dust on floors and windowsills, and for lead in soil, too.
So if you suspect something, or you just want to know for sure, what's the next step? How do you find out if lead is actually there?
There are basically two main types for professional checks. You can get a lead-based paint inspection. That tells you if lead paint is present and exactly where.
Just presence and location.
Right. Then there's a risk assessment, and that looks for current hazards, like is there deteriorated paint, is there hazardous dust, contaminated soil right now?
So assessment is about the current danger level.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can get a combined test. Either way, make sure you get a written report and definitely ask questions if anything isn't clear.
Okay, that makes sense. And this ties into the legal side and that disclosure form you mentioned right at the start. What do sellers and landlords have to do for these older properties?
Federal law is pretty clear here. Sellers and landlords must tell potential buyers or renters about any known lead-based paint or lead hazards before they sign anything.
Known information.
Known information, yes. And they have to provide any reports they have from past inspections or assessments. Plus, there's specific warning language that has to be included right in the sales contract or lease agreement.
And that form we have, how does that play into it?
That form is basically how they fulfill that obligation. You'll see checkboxes where the seller or landlord says, I know about hazards and explains, or I have no knowledge, and whether they have reports or not.
Okay.
Then the buyer or renter signs, acknowledging they got the info and also that they received the Protect Your Family pamphlet.
Ah, the pamphlet too.
Yes. And importantly, buyers usually get a 10-day window unless they negotiate something else to do their own inspection or risk assessment if they want. They can also choose to waive that.
And the agent's role.
The agent has a duty to make sure the seller knows about these rules and follows them. So yeah, the form is like the legal checkpoint for the deal, and the pamphlet is your ongoing safety guide.
Okay, so knowing this stuff is really important. But what if you do have lead paint? What are some simple things people can do right away to protect their family?
Yeah, the pamphlet has some great practical tips. First, big one. Don't try to remove lead paint yourself unless you're certified. You can easily make things worse.
Right, don't DIY this.
Definitely not. Focus on keeping painted surfaces in good shape. Fix any damage promptly. If you're renting and, say, peeling paint, tell your landlord right away.
Makes sense.
Regular cleaning is also key. Use wet methods, wet cloths, mops to clean floors, windowsills, other surfaces. That helps capture dust instead of spreading it. Clean up paint chips carefully.
And washing hands.
Crucial. Wash everyone's hands often, especially before eating. And wash kids' toys, pacifiers, anything they put in their mouths. Also, good nutrition actually helps. Diets high in iron, calcium, vitamin C can help reduce lead absorption in kids.
Interesting.
And one simple thing, take shoes off at the door to avoid tracking in contaminated soil.
These are good practical steps. Now, what about bigger projects like renovations? That sounds like a high-risk time.
It absolutely is. Disturbing lead paint during remodeling, repairs, painting that can seriously spike the risk.
So what's the rule there?
If you're doing any renovation, repair, or painting work in a pre-1978 home that disturbs painted surfaces, you must use an EPA or state-approved, lead-safe certified renovation firm.
Must use certified folks.
Yes, they're trained in specific work practices to contain dust, minimize spread, and clean up properly. Again, DIY removal is really discouraged because the risk of contaminating your home is just too high.
Okay, so there are those immediate safety steps, and then there's dealing with the paint more permanently. What's the difference there?
Well, temporary measures might be like repairing small damaged areas or maybe planting grass over bare soil outside. But those need constant upkeep, right? They don't eliminate the hazard.
Right, just managing it.
Exactly. For a permanent solution, you're looking at lead abatement. This means hiring a certified lead abatement contractor. They use methods like actually removing the paint, permanently sealing it, or enclosing it.
So just painting over it is an abatement.
No, painting over it is generally not considered permanent. Abatement is about eliminating the hazard permanently. And after abatement, especially in housing getting federal aid, they have to do just clearance testing to make sure the area is safe, down to specific, very low levels.
So inspection finds it, risk assessment checks the current danger, abatement gets rid of the hazard long term.
You got it. That's a good way to think about it.
Now, paint is the main focus, obviously, but the pamphlet does mention other lead sources briefly.
Mm-hmm.
What else should people be aware of?
Yeah, it's good to know. Drinking water is one, especially in older homes or cities with lead pipes or fixtures. Testing your water is a good idea.
What can you do about water?
Things like always using cold water for drinking or cooking, flushing the pipes for a bit before using water, cleaning faucet aerators, maybe using a certified water filter.
Okay. Any others?
Lead can also come from industrial sites like smelters, sometimes brought home from certain jobs or hobbies like pottery, stained glass, refinishing old furniture, even some old toys, furniture, lead crystals, certain pottery glazes, and surprisingly, some traditional folk remedies can contain lead.
Wow. Okay, so it can pop up in unexpected places.
It can, yeah. Though paint is usually the biggest concern in homes.
This has been really comprehensive. It definitely shows how much you need to know with older properties. If someone listening wants to learn more or needs specific advice, where should they go?
The pamphlet itself is a great start and lists key resources. The National Lead Information Center is probably the main hub, epa.gov lead or hud.gov lead, or call 1-800-424-LEAD.
Okay, 800-424-LEAD.
Right. For water concerns, there's the Safe Drinking Water Hotline, 1-800-426-4791. For toys or consumer products, the CPSC hotline.
CPSC, okay.
And definitely check with your state and local health or environmental departments. They might have specific local rules, maybe even financial help programs. The EPA regional office contacts are in the pamphlet too. And there's a TTY number for those with hearing or speech difficulties.
Great. So wrapping this all up,
Hmm.
what's the number one takeaway you want people to get from this deep dive?
I think the most crucial thing is simply awareness. If you're dealing with a property built before 1978, living there, buying, renting, renovating, you just need to be conscious of potential lead paint hazards.
It's not about panic, but preparation.
Exactly. It's about being informed, know the risks, understand the disclosure rules, and take the right steps to protect yourself and your family. That might mean testing, using safe work practices, or calling in certified pros if you have concerns.
Yeah. And knowing how to manage it really does empower you, doesn't it? It makes it a manageable issue rather than just a scary unknown.
Absolutely. It puts you back in control.
So maybe the final thought for you listening is this. Really consider the age of your home or any place you're thinking about. If it's pre-1978 and you're unsure,
Don't hesitate. Look into it. Find the information, maybe get it tested. It could be one of the most important things you do for your family's health. Definitely check out those resources we mentioned to get info tailored to your own situation.